thank you very much for coming out to the info session, and a big thank you to those people that are online. So we have people online as well, so if you hear me talking to this other group of people, that's who it is. So there's other people here. So the focus of tonight is to let everybody know about this industrial electrician program. It's not a new program. It's been around for a few years, but it's new to BCIT in the fact that we'll be offering it. And some people might say, you know, why haven't you offered it before and why are you offering it now? For years in this province, there was only one classification of electrician, and that was exactly what we were called. We were called electricians and nothing else. And then I think it's about 5 years ago, there was a change come down from the government that there be two classifications. One is construction electrician and one is industrial electrician. And we didn't really feel there was a need for that classification and didn't really get involved with it. But since that time, we've had a number of concerns expressed to us from industry that we should offer the program. In fact, if you look at BCIT, we are the largest trainer in the province for electrical apprenticeship. And what was happening, employers down in the Vancouver Lower Mainland area here were having to send their apprentices up to Kamloops as one of the places that was offering the program. It's considerable financial hardship for them and very difficult. So welcome aboard, come on in. So that being the case, we have now embarked on offering this program. And so what I'll be doing tonight is basically telling you about, well, electricians, especially industrial electricians, what they do so that it doesn't come as any surprise. And you see that nice picture there in the middle of the slide there. There's an industrial electrician, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that as we go on here. But the problem with that picture, that's what most people think about industrial electricians, that it's this nice inside job. But let me tell you, it's very, very different from that. Anyway, so that gives you an idea of what we're going to talk about. I'm going to talk about what electricians do, especially industrial electricians, how to get to that certification, where we go from there. And the one thing I would mention, if you do have questions, by all means, just give me a hand wave. Even those people online, I know if you want to ask questions, I know that our program, our industry services person here, Maria, is going to let me know if they have questions. So there we are. Is there any questions before we get started? You're all wanting to find out what electricians do. There you go. Okay, so industrial electricians, they work in all kinds of places, obviously in industry, but you're looking at mills, refineries, manufacturing, and people are surprised when I tell them places like Metro Vancouver, some of you would know it as GVRD, Greater Vancouver Regional District, all the water pumping systems, that type of thing. They're more into the maintenance aspect of the electrical work versus construction. Construction electricians, albeit do all of it as well, but they're primarily into the actual installation, and that's sort of where we draw the line. So of course, when you look at our province right now, I don't think there's anyone here that hasn't heard of LNG. That's one of the key pushes, and that's another reason that we've been sort of pushed in, not pushed into, but asked to offer this program, because there will be an incredible amount of work for industrial electricians on these LNG sites. And in fact, it's already started. A lot of people aren't aware that we have an LNG site in the Lower Mainland that has been there for quite a few years on Annis's Island. So that one already exists. But anyway, as well as the LNG, if you look at our pulp and paper industry, those are all industrial electricians. If you look at the wood industry, plywood, that type of thing, mills and so on, those are all industrial electricians. So the list goes on and on. In fact, if you look at a lot of the organizations, BC Hydro, their people are more, or their electricians would do work that's more in line with what an industrial electrician does. So it just gives you an idea of where they work. I'll talk about the rewards of obviously being an industrial electrician near the end there, but definitely they're fairly high. You know, a few things about industrial electricians, and I'll use that very center picture to start off with. And I actually was mentioning to Marina when I came in, I like the picture of the crane on the upper side of it, because as industrial electricians, and I've worked in both sides of the industry, all aspects of the industry actually, and I can tell you, my first job, and I was an apprentice, working for a very, very industrial site, which was the old, some of you may know it, the Imperial Oil Refinery, which was on the other side of Burrard Inlet, just opposite Port Moody there. I don't know if you've seen it there. My first job, and this is, everybody looks at that nice picture there, nice and warm and inside using the meter. I was in a rowboat with a life jacket under the dock fixing the pump. That was what we do. And I tell people, industrial electricians, very similar to construction, you have to be, it's a very physical job, so you have to be physically fit. You work at heights. That is very typical in some cases of what industrial electricians do. I'll give you another good example. You've all heard of the Port of Vancouver, those nice big gantry cranes that go out over the water. Well, when they break down, they don't have someone sit in that nice console like that. They say, go out and fix the limit switch at the end of the boom. And so they're out in the rain, in the wind, over the water. Obviously, they wear all the equipment and so on. But it's an incredibly demanding job. No question about some of the places that you work as industrial electrician. I tell everybody, just so you know, it is an extremely dangerous job. There's no question about it. Even though we have all kinds of safeties, systems in place, some of the work you do is incredibly dangerous. Just what you work with as far as the energy. So, I don't want to scare you all off yet, but we'll just tell you. So, anyone know what the mortality rate was for electricians when they first started working with electricity? This will start you. Any ideas? It was real simple, 50%. 50% was the mortality rate when people first started with electricity. But we've come a long ways since, you know, Mr. Edison and Nikola Tesla and the rest of those people. And we work in much safer environments and we're much more aware of safety and so on. But industrial electricians, just like construction, work with extremely high power. Obviously, it's supposed to be dead, but in some cases, we have to work on things energized, so we have to be very skilled. And that's one of the things that you would do, and you see in this picture here, is learn how to troubleshoot, learn how to do things safely. And that's one of our key things, of course, at BCIT, is that we teach you to be as safe as we possibly can. And if I look at the industry now, it's far, far, far from the 50% mortality rate. We look at maybe one person in X number of years, and even then it's probably not a mortality, just maybe burned or something, which still isn't good, but far, far better. Being an industrial electrician, you're not always nice and clean like that. The foundry that I got to work at, I was covered with soot half the time. And that's just part of what you do. You have to wear masks, wear this, and wear protective clothing. So I just want to make sure that everyone here, if they're thinking an industrial electrician is that nice inside warm job, that gets left for the old guys like me. We get to do those inside jobs. We send the apprentices out to do the tough stuff. But no, it is, if you look at a sawmill, all kinds of the bits and pieces of that sawmill are outside. You look at a pulp mill, they're working with chemicals around things that are very dangerous, and a lot of it's outside. So, as long as you're familiar with what you're doing or what you're getting into, and I tell people that if it was construction electricians, the same thing, the same exact things. It's a very demanding job. It's a great job. I can tell you, the good parts of it, it's exciting, it's lots of teamwork, it's interesting things. Just so you know, if you do embark on this career, it's lifelong learning. Everything changes by And I hate to tell you this by the minute. Every time we turn around, there's something new. And that's industrial electricians. Without a doubt, if we had the opportunity, it'd be great to show you the labs we have. But we continually upgrade our labs. My associate dean here, James, he knows when I come to him and ask him for X number of $1,000 because we're changing equipment and so on. That's just for us to keep up with the industry and the requirements. It is incredible how fast the industry changes. So it is lifelong learning. You'll be, learning new things probably every day in what you do. So, what people make the best industrial electricians? The best industrial electricians are the people that like to take things apart, put them back together. Unlike me, as my mom would say, I'd take them apart, but I never put them back together right. They threw them in the garbage. You say, no, I'm just kidding you. But there is no question. It is people with, or like, that have, or should say, have incredibly good mechanical skills. Because a lot, people think it's just when something doesn't work electrically that, we just, fix a wire or something. In a lot of cases, especially for industrial electricians, it's something mechanical. This piston didn't work, that air valve didn't shut off, this didn't do that, that didn't do that. So, very mechanical job. And the other part, so you have to have great mechanical skills and incredible technical skills. You have to be able to think. There's no question about it. So great technical skills, great hand skills, you'll be an excellent industrial electrician. So we're all happy in all those things, all the things you get to know about to be an industrial electrician and so on. You still want to stay here and listen to the rest of it? Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to just slide here for a second. I know it's difficult to read, but I'm going to speak to it as we go along. So, to become an industrial electrician, there is 2 ways of going about it. I think you actually have that diagram in the handout, so that's good. See, I'm getting old, I forget these things now. Anyway, as far as industrial electricians, at BCIT, we offer what's called foundation program. So, foundation programs are for individuals who may or may not have a lot of skill. They haven't been able to work on equipment or work on installations or anything to do with electrical. So what we do in the foundation program is we teach you hands-on skills, huge amount of safety so that you're able to look after yourself when you're out there. And then we also provide you with the training that's involved in level 1. So I don't have a pointer here, but I'm going to show you what I'm referring to. So right here is that program that I was telling you about on this side here. I'll explain what this other route is here in a second. But this is the area, if you're not really comfortable with going out and, starting to work on a job as an apprentice right away, I strongly suggest going through the foundation program. Now, the problem with the foundation program, I shouldn't say it's a problem, but one of the issues we face all the time, the program we offer at BCIT is a victim of its own success. The grads from that program get jobs, they're highly sought after by industry, but of course everybody knows about it. And they all want in that program. So we do have a wait list. It isn't where it used to be, it's much less, but you're looking at about a year and a half somewhere there wait list, which isn't that bad if you say you want to get in. You probably, if you were lucky, a year from now get into the program. So it is a great program. Actually, it's an incredible program. The grads of it, I just want to back up here a bit and tell you something about this young man in the picture is Mark Francis. He's one of our grads from our Surrey High School program. And in that program, because it's through the high school, they actually go for 12 months of training. And when they're done, well, in fact, between grade 11 and grade 12, they work in the industry. They come out, they have their foundation certificate and their dogwood certificate, and they are set because they're out there as apprentices and working, and away they go. So what we do in that program, we have a number of STAR students that actually come and work at BCIT on what he's actually working on there as a PLC, Programmable Logic Controller. You'll find out all about that when you become an industrial electrician. Anyway, these students program, or first off, they build controllers, program them, then they go in the industrial skills competition and win first, second, third, fourth, fifth. And Mark was actually the first place person in the provincial industrial competition and the silver medalist in the Canadian competition. So we're very proud of the grads at BCIT, and this is why I say the industry basically looks to try and capture these people. In fact, when he was at the provincial skills competition, there was employers coming up and giving him their business cards. So he could have had a bidding war there as to which employer, got to hire him. But anyway, that gives you an idea of how well that foundation program prepares people to get into the trade. It is an incredible program, but the problem with it, and I wish both James and myself wish we had bigger campus and more money and all kinds of things and could offer more programs and lower the waiting list. But it is actually at a manageable level. If we were having this conversation 2 years ago, I would have been telling you our wait list was 2 to 3 years. But we've done a lot of work. We've gone to afternoon shifts and different things. So anyway, so there is a foundation program. Don't be surprised. A lot of people look at this and it says construction electrician and this says industrial electrician. So I'll explain that right now. As far as foundation programs are concerned, there is no difference between a construction foundation program and an industrial foundation program. They are identical. Just like you see here, and I'm going to show you level 2. So the first levels of training in the industrial apprenticeship are identical whether you're a construction electrician or a foundation industrial electrician. So if you can't get into the foundation program or you feel that you cannot wait that year or year and a half to get into it, then there is another option, a little more difficult depending on your experience and so on. You can go out and do what we call, it's very small print here, direct entry. I tell people it's off the street. That's like, for old people like myself, that's how we came into the apprenticeship program. We didn't have these lovely foundation programs. We basically were direct entry. We would go out and pound the pavement, find the job, and then start our apprenticeship. So if you're fairly comfortable, you have good hand skills, good technical skills, you've worked in some form or another of some type of construction work or say maintenance or whatever, that would be my suggestion. And that works for a lot of people. We have, and just in case some of you are wondering, we have a number of students that come through what I call the direct entry method. To give you an idea, yearly at BCIT, we'd probably have in the neighborhood of 10 classes of 16 that take level 1. So that means those 10 classes, the 16 students in each class, 160, they have come through the direct entry method. And that's where I tell people networking helps. So if you know someone, uncle, father, somehow you can get that job, that's the way to get started. And obviously you're going to save yourself considerable money because it's each one of these levels that you see on the right-hand side, those are 10-week sessions. So they go through, and I'll explain those in a second, whereas the foundation program is 6 months. So I don't want to knock the foundation program. It is a great program, there's no question. When you think about it from an employer's point of view, would they rather hire somebody that they really don't know what their experience is, or they're going to hire that person that comes through the foundation program with a certificate from BCIT, which is a huge plus. So I'm going to just stop there for a second. Any questions? Or has my sheer size intimidated everybody? I can tell that's what it is. We're okay? Nobody? No one online? Oh, I'm sorry.
So the first one, the one for the direct entry, if you have
Absolutely. Yep. So the question that is being asked here, and the only way, I just want to repeat it for those online. The question that's being asked is, let's say you come in the direct entry method and you're fortunate that you've got the job, someone's decided to hire you and you want to go that route. There is no problem at all as long as you have the prerequisites for the program. Now, this is going to surprise you, and so your question is really good. So going back to this question, what are the prerequisites for the program? Here, there is none. There is zero. It is recommended. This, because it's a BCIT program, we set the prerequisites. People are surprised when I tell them that. That's the difference between direct entry, foundation. If you're going through the foundation, BCIT is going to ask you to have a science, and that was one of, because the wait list is so big, we decided, okay, well, we have to narrow it down, so they've got to have Physics 11, and their math and their English. That is a BCIT program, BCIT certificate, we can do that. Apprenticeship is, and I guess we did take it off here, but just so you know, the apprenticeship program in British Columbia is administered by, you'll have their name on the document there, the ITA. And I tell everyone, just because I'll forget as I go along here tonight, if you want to find piles and piles of information on the industrial program, on the construction program, go to the ITA website. I have it bookmarked on my computer, so I go click and I can find it. Somebody asks, questions and so on. This is from that document, which is from the ITA. ITA is the provincial, body that governs apprenticeship in this province. So when you come here, going this way, and it's interesting how, both, whether you go this way or you go that way, the bottom line, you need to get a job to start your apprenticeship. So this, going here, you go through the foundation program, you come out, you've got the certificate, you're ready to go. The next step is finding that job. And without it, you can't start the apprenticeship. Same thing here. These people, now they, to get started, they have to find the job. Okay? Anyone else before we move on? All happy? Good. That's good. I can change that, don't worry. No, I'm just giving you a bad time. All right, so the nice part about this is another benefit of the foundation program. If you take the foundation program, you get credit for this level of training, as long as you're successful. So people that come through our foundation program do not have to take level 1 technical training. It's like Monopoly. They go directly to level 2. They bypass. That's where they move to. So they're into level 2. Now, in the industrial program, and this is where I'll stress this a bit, foundation, level 1 or foundation, and level 2 are common. There is no difference. So if you were to take level 1 and level 2 at BCIT, that satisfies the requirements for the industrial program. Where the programs do this kind of T in the road is where we hit level 3. In level 3, if you're working for an industrial employer, you're going to move into the industrial apprenticeship or take the industrial training, level 3. If you're construction, then you will go with the construction. And same with level 4. So that's where they branch off, is at level 3. Yes, sir?
If you want to take an industrial course, do you have to find an industrial employer, or can you branch off automatically and find an employer after?
That is something we're working at. So it's a real good question. So the question is, so if you're doing the industrial program, do you need an industrial employer? So I'm going to answer that question first. Yes, technically you should have an industrial employer, because one thing the industrial apprenticeship has that we don't have in construction, they have an assessor that has to sign off, and obviously it has to be an industrial company. Now the second part of your question, I think you were saying, can you take the training and then find an employer? Was that it?
Yeah, so if you're in construction level 2,
yes,
and you're at the crossroads, and you
yeah,
decide
Yes.
Yeah, do you have to, can you do that right away, or do you have to find the employer first?
Right now, the best answer I can give you is you need the employer first. However, James and I are actually in discussions with the ITA right now. Number one, they're going to make an announcement about the assessors, whether they keep them or not, because that's become a real hindrance to people getting into that program. Because a lot of the companies say, why would I hire an assessor when the people that I'm getting through BCIT's program right now satisfy all of the requirements? So that's where that's going. So James is actually meeting with the ITA tomorrow to discuss exactly what you said. We're asking the ITA, would it be possible for the students to take that training, then find the industrial employer? And I think it's an excellent question, and hopefully James and I have the right answers. So, you know, keep tuned to our website. You're very welcome. Anyone else? Yes? In industrial, I would say yes. Construction, I would say it's very common to have 2-3 employers. Not that there isn't a lot of people that go through with the same employer, but construction, if you get a job with BC Hydro, which means you've won the lottery, you would be with them for the 4 years. Because one of the things about industrial employers and I think that's why people really sort of search out these jobs. Industrial employers are usually bigger companies like Metro Vancouver, as I was saying, BC Hydro, the airport. There's a number of them. Well, the nice part for those apprentices, they get paid to go to school. Everything is paid for. So I always tell people, you wouldn't want to be leaving that employer, throughout your term. However, let's say you're working for, pulp and paper, and you decide that that's really not what you want to do. You could transfer your apprenticeship, and I'll explain what I mean by transfer. You could seek employment, let's say, with refinery or sugar mill or whatever type of company, and all that's required of yourself is to make sure that your employer, the one that you're leaving, submits your hours, and the new employer re-signs or signs you up with the ITA. What we have happen, and this is unfortunate, and I don't care whether it's industrial or construction, this is a problem we face. Apprentices will leave an employer, and they forget that employer is the one that's signed up with the ITA, and they start with a new employer and they don't bother signing up. All of a sudden, their hours stop. What happens is your employer, let's say that it's Mott Electric, they're one of the bigger companies in British Columbia, they submit your hours. And if you leave Mott Electric and you start with a new company, let's say it's Houle, and Houle doesn't pick that up, as far as the ITA knows, you don't have any hours. So I tell everybody, when you change employers, you have to make sure that the new employer you go to signs up with the ITA and carries on your apprenticeship. That was the big change in apprenticeship that occurred when the ITA, I guess, was dismantled, and the ITAG was dismantled. They dropped the C, ITAC. We dropped the C, and we became the ITA. The responsibility for a person's apprenticeship was put on the apprentices themselves. So whether you agree or disagree with it, it is the fact in this province that as an apprentice, you're responsible for making sure that your hours are submitted and that your employer, has signed you up with the ITA and so on. Your apprenticeship in this province now is in effect a three-way agreement. It is yourself as the apprentice, your employer, and the ITA. It is a three-way agreement. Yes, sir?
Are your hours transferable? Say if you're doing construction for level 1 and 2, and you want to go into industrial, are those hours?
No. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. They wouldn't be. So the question was, are the hours transferable? No, they should. Now, you're given credit. I got to be careful in that. Because you're given credit for years 1 and 2, as long as you're working with an industrial employer, I guess you'd be all right for 3 and 4, as long as they're signing it off. That's a good question. Yeah. I'd say they were. Yes.
Let's say in your apprenticeship, your construction apprenticeship, you did have work-based hours within industrial companies
Mm-hmm.
or industrial, heavy industrial sites.
Someone would have to sign those off. Yeah. So the question is, and it's probably similar to yours, if someone is doing industrial work for a so-called construction company, as long as there's an assessor or someone to sign that work off, it should be acceptable. Yeah. Anyone else? All right. So, as I said, the other levels of training, fairly straightforward, 3, 4. Differences again, construction people go more into the installation side, more into the Canadian Electrical Code, those requirements, regulations for installations, whereas the people on the industrial side are moving more into controls, PLCs, that type of thing. So it just, that's how they differ. I have no idea, and a lot of this is new, even for the ITA, how in the end, let's say a person is a construction electrician, has their red seal, and they want to transfer over to industrial, or vice versa. It all comes down to having workplace experience, somebody signing that off, and making that transfer. Now, presently, you would have to write an exam. So let's say you go through the construction program, you've written your interprovincial exam, your red seal, journeyperson electrician. If you want to become an industrial electrician, you are going to have to write that exam. So, and vice versa. Industrial electrician wants to work as a construction electrician, you're going to have to write that exam. So, it gives you an idea of how they will interchange eventually. All right? I don't know if there's any other questions. I just got to check my notes and see if I covered all the bits and pieces here. And I think, aside from that, I think we're pretty well. I'll give you an idea of financially where they're at. Again, because industrial employers are bigger, involved with, I guess some fairly large, companies and so on, the money is generally better. It's not unheard of to have industrial electricians making up $100,000 a year. Gives you an idea. However, I always temper that. Even when I was, working in the field, you make lots of money, but you put in lots of hours. You put in so many hours, you forget what day it is. And I say that in all honesty. So it's a very rewarding career, financially and so on, but it is a lot of hours to put in. Yes?
I assume the answer is yes, but they're both red seal.
Yes, they are, and that's very, very important. I should point that out. Red seal means that you can work as an electrician, industrial construction, anywhere in Canada. So, just to give you an idea on that, gives me a chance to brag about BCIT. BCIT has, in all of Canada, we have the highest success rate on the interprovincial exam. Our success rate is 95% plus. It's been higher. I give the instructors a bad time. I tell them they're slacking off. It is 95%. Now, that doesn't mean our students write 95% on that exam. What it means is 95% of our students that write that exam pass it. And I won't name the province, but it's the one just on the other side of the mountains. They're around 60 to 70%. So there you go. That's my chance of giving BC a plug. And that goes for all of the public colleges in this province. I think we do a real good job. And it is. And again, I tell people, it's also because of the students we have. We're very proud of the students that we have in the program. So there it is, everybody. Like I said, to start off, you're going to have to sign up for the foundation program or go through level 1, go that way there. So is there any other questions, anything I can help you with? Yes?
When it comes to the British Columbia Red Seal, how is that looked at throughout the rest of North America or even in Europe and stuff like that? Is there
Okay, so I'm sure I know what you meant. The question is, how is the Canadian red seal? That's okay. No, I'm just giving you a bad time. The red seal in Canada is basically respected throughout the world, and I know people that send me emails and say they're in Australia, they're here. Just so you know, this was when employment was really good in the States. They were up here stealing all of our electricians because they really don't have the same training program in the U.S. They really don't have a government apprenticeship program. There isn't one. The only program they have there, and it's a very good one, in fact, is the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. That's the big organization for apprenticeship down there. But if you look at it, they're only probably that much of the industry. So Canadian electricians are sought after, there's no question. Our training is, that much above everybody. Just a note on that again, and it'll just show you where the public training is in British Columbia. You've all heard of Princess Cruise Lines. So they came to BCIT, this is about 10 years ago, and what they were looking for was they were trying to make, they have, of course on the ships, they have these people that need to know electrical, but also need to know about navigation, communication, and everything else. And so it was one step above an electrician, and actually the title they were given was Electrotechnical Officers. They actually become part of the officers on the cruise ship. So anyway, they came here and talked about different things, and we showed them our program or went through it. And I had to ask them the question. I said, why would you pick BCIT? Here they are from London. They could have gone anywhere in the world, which they did go to a few places in the world. And he said, Ted, I'm going to tell you, your program covers all the bases. And so from our Year 4 classes, they've come twice now and offered the grads from those programs jobs as electrotechnical officers. And what they do is they take them from our program, they give them 2 more years of training, on the ship, and there they have that. It's not the job for everybody. I thought it would be a lot more money and so on and so on. The best part was I loved one of our students. He asked the question, did they do a criminal record check? I loved it. I thought, there's our best students. But anyway, it was pretty good. And the other question that was asked, you love this, are you allowed to date the people on the ship? I go. But what was funny, the guy, the fellow that was doing the presentation, he said, yes, that's how I met my wife. So there you go. Gives you an idea. But anyway, that gives you an idea of what we do at BCIT. We have just a couple of things on the program. The labs that we have are incredible. We have 2 advanced industrial control labs where we actually have conveyor belts and that type of thing, pneumatic systems, air handling units that you program and do all of that. So incredible program anytime you buy. We have a program that's called Student for a Day. I guess if anybody would like to come and join the program for a day in the foundation program, see what we do. So there's all those things. Any other questions? Anyone here that is an apprentice right now in the construction program? Ah, okay. So you're with which company?
Right now I'm on a sponsor.
Oh, okay. So you're a perfect candidate. We'll sign you up. Excellent. So that would be a good one to find. So I'll leave my business cards over here. Give me a call if because James, as I said, will be meeting with them and we'll find out what's happening with that part about requiring a sponsor. Okay? So anyone else? Any other questions? Yes, sir.
How are the other provinces, are they doing this, are the other institutions doing this as well? Because I know like out of province industrial jobs like oil fields in Alberta or mines all over Canada, you can just be a construction electrician and get a job out there with like that. Are institutions out there doing the same thing?
Real good question. So the question is, in other areas of the country, are they having the same sort of setup where we would have construction electrician, industrial electrician? And the answer is yes and no. So I'm a true politician. No, yes and no. So in Ontario, they have 3 classifications of electricians. They have a rural electrician, they have construction, they have industrial. Alberta, 1. as you said. So if you go to Alberta, you could leave Alberta right now, or go to Alberta right now with your construction interprovincial, you'd have a job tomorrow. They do not have, or designated difference. And I have to be honest with everybody here. James, don't listen to this. I'm a firm believer that the program we had where we turned out electricians was fine. But the powers that be have decided to have this industrial program, and you're going to see employers start to basically say, no, we want you to have the industrial IP. So there's no way around it. And like I said, you just reminded me of something. One of the things that's occurring in Canada right now, whether I agree with it or whether any of us agree or disagree with it, they are harmonizing, and this is first time ever for this initiative, harmonizing or attempting to harmonize the training in British Columbia, Alberta, across the country. So what that will mean is they could come back and say, you know what, we're going to have 2 trades, and this is going to be the training. In BC, the training is going to be the same as Alberta or Saskatchewan or Manitoba. They may come back and say, you know what, 1 trade. But as it stands now, each province has its own requirements. So there's where we're at.
Two questions. Just to clarify, so if you do your foundations, you would move into level 3 if you decided to move it.
If you do foundations, you have to do level 2. Yeah, you go to 2 and then you move on to 3, 4.
So the question is, how do you get your apprenticeship hours in if you haven't done level 1? And the second one is, if you want to move over, what's the window? How long can you wait? Is it a year?
Okay, so the first question that's being asked here is, how do you get the hours here for there? So it's an excellent question, and I'll apologize because I should have explained that end of it. You do get a certain number of hours awarded to you for taking the program. And I should know off the top of my head, I forget what it is. I think it's 1,000. I forget what it is. But you will get credit for that, a certain amount of hours. But you're absolutely correct. People that go this route, it is almost like saying you're adding 6 months to your apprenticeship. Because each one of these, if you look at it, I always tell people, that's the 10 weeks of level 1 training in year 1 of your apprenticeship. Year 2, year 3, year 4, you need 6,000 hours. So when you go this way, day 1, when you start, and this is another advantage of the direct entry system, when you start, the clock is ticking. So technically, if you started here and I started there, you're going to be ahead of me. No question about it. Because they will not give you that nice red seal until you have the number of hours. You need that 6,000 hours, and somebody has to sign that off. So somebody coming this way, it will take them longer to get the hours. So there is another advantage of the direct entry. Now, you were saying about the window. In other words, your question is there a timeline of when you have to change from industrial to construction? It would depend on, really, it would come down to when you could get that job with the industrial employer. Well, this is the question that was asked earlier, and I think the hours, because these 2 levels are considered the same, I'll have to check on that. I don't know if they're going to give you credit for that time in the industrial. They may say, you know what, you have to work for an industrial company for those hours to count. Yep, no problem at all. Anyone else? Yes?
Someone who has their red seal, who went through the foundation program, will they know more, or will the fact that they have gone through the foundation program still affect their desirability, or as opposed to someone who got their red seal through the apprenticeship?
Real good question. I like that question, so I'm going to repeat it. So the question is, will somebody that goes through here be more employable than someone that goes that way? I guess it would depend on the employer. No question, as far as getting the job, if you're starting off, if I take two people, none of us has any experience, and we're both, okay, I'll rephrase that. We have someone that has no experience and someone that's finished the foundation program. I can guarantee you 9 times out of 10, the person that's finished the foundation job or program is getting the job. Now, is that person more employable or have they covered more things? I'm going to go out on a limb here, but I don't think there's much doubt that person has a more rounded knowledge base. And only because we expose them to as much as possible in that foundation program. So it is a benefit. But, you know, in the end, the two people have their journey person certificate. You could find people on this side here that have worked for 4 different companies. Somebody coming through the foundation program worked for one company. You know, who's got a more well-rounded experience is questionable. So it's a good question, but it's tough to answer. Because I could have somebody go through the foundation program and just work on high-rise apartment towers. Somebody coming through the direct entry program that's worked in every aspect of the industry. So I always tell people, the work you do, you become proficient in what you work in. So if you work in, you know, an industrial program, you know, and let's face it, if you just work for BC Hydro, somebody asks you to go work on a high-rise office tower or an institution like BCIT here, you're going to struggle because you're going to have to learn that aspect of the trade. Yes, sorry, Marita.
I have an online question. Can my past work experience from another country be credited for the hours?
Only, you know what, they would have to go to the ITA, and I'm going to say yes, because that is part of the ITA's responsibility. They will assess a person's hours and say yay or nay. Because what people can do that come from outside of Canada, and I don't like even telling you people this, but yes, they challenge exams. They can challenge. I don't agree with it. I'm not going to say I don't agree with the person from outside of Canada getting assessed for the hours. I don't like it when people challenge the exams here instead of taking training. So I'll put it that way. Yeah. Anyone else? Yes.
Journey person, upgrading person, for example, like the motor control or fast motor control.
Yes.
Do they have any
No, but they definitely help. If you were going to write that interprovincial exam, say you came from construction, you had your red seal, you wanted to move over to industrial, you would want to have that experience. So it would definitely be a benefit. Yep. The magic number, and you'll see it in the, and you know, I didn't hide it from you. It's in the hours there in the sheet if you go through it. If somebody wants to, let's say you end up working and never going to school, as long as you get 9,000 hours, you can challenge that exam. So there it is. Do I recommend that? No. And that's not just because I'm in education. I think, what we do at BCIT is, incredibly valuable, and I just look at the safety aspects. And as I was saying to you at the very beginning, just think back to the 50% mortality rate where they didn't have training. There's a reason we do education. It's important. It's a big piece of what we do. Anyone else, any questions? I guess we're all done then. Anyone else online? I'll be around for a while. If you have questions, I will, as I said, once I find them again, leave my business cards here if you have questions for me. And I do appreciate you taking the time to come out, and especially those people online as well.